Today we'll be looking at SOL 6.17, which is our SOL that dealt with sequences. So the first two types of sequences we're going to look at are arithmetic and geometric. Arithmetic would be the first, and if you remember arithmetic, in arithmetic students must determine, or you guys have to be able to know, the difference between each term, and that's what we call the common ratio. Common difference. So in arithmetic sequence, we have this common difference between every number. And what it is basically whatever you're adding is called the common difference. So I want to go ahead and highlight that. Arithmetic and common difference go together. So arithmetic and common difference. And a way to help us remember that arithmetic, common difference, adding, all that goes together is that, remember, in arithmetic it begins with the letter A, so you can add a positive or a negative. So the positive part, this is going to be the 6th grade part. If you want to put a star, the negative part will just be the 7th grade part. It doesn't hurt us to know it, but we only need to be able to do the adding part. For example, we have 33, 37, 41. So what is the difference? What is literally the difference between every one of these numbers? Sometimes we can easily see what the difference is. Sometimes we actually need to subtract and figure it out. And the difference in this time, we are adding 4. So we would literally say that our common difference is 4. Our pattern is plus 4, so our common difference is 4. Now we'll go ahead and star this one because it's a 7th grade, but it doesn't hurt us to review. Let's look here. We're going from a 52, 50, 48. I can tell that I'm subtracting 2. Well, arithmetic says we have to add, so if we were adding, we would just simply be adding a negative 2. So you don't have to do that. You need to be responsible for that first one. If you can figure out the common difference, what you're adding. We'll even make that note here. What we are adding. So common difference is what has been added. Now the opposite of an arithmetic sequence is a geometric sequence. And in a geometric sequence, we have to determine what number is being multiplied. In order to find the next thing. And this thing is called the common ratio. So in geometric sequences, I'm going to highlight that geometric part. We have to figure out what's being multiplied, and we call that the common ratio. So what are we multiplying? And I know sometimes this can be difficult, so we're going to look at a way to figure out, hey, what are we multiplying by to figure this out? If you have not already done so, please go ahead and get your calculator. So let's see. For example, we have this 3, 15, 75. Well, I can tell that got big fast. So in my mind, I'm thinking I probably wasn't adding something if I went from 3 to 75 in 3 numbers. So that must mean I'm multiplying something. Some of us are good at our facts. We see right away what we multiply by. Some of us aren't. So the strategy we talked about, and it's been a long time, was you take your second number and you divide by your first number. So if I did 15 divided by 3, it would equal 5. And what that tells me is that my common ratio is 5. I am multiplying by 5 each time to get bigger and bigger. And that works even when we're getting smaller. And we'll look at how that works. So let's see. We have 50 10, 2. I got small really fast. Well, geometric means that I have to be multiplying. So what have I multiplied by? Well, once again, if you take your second number and divide it by your first number, so let's see. So literally take 10 divided by 50. I get a decimal. I get the 0. I'm going to jot it down here. 0.2. Well, in 6th grade, I'll be honest, they're not going to let us see it as a decimal. We're going to have to turn this decimal into a fraction. Well, think back to what we did in 6.2. Alright, so I'll review. We can turn this decimal into a fraction by turning it to a percent, 20%. Percent means out of 100, so I can put 20 over 100. And then I'll simplify. If I simplify by tens, I would get 2/10 divided by 2. Gives me a fraction of 1/5. And so my common ratio here is literally 1/5. If I multiply each number by 1/5, that it's called a fraction. So I'm going to highlight that. It says, please be careful. When you divide to find the next term, you need to write it as a fraction. So when your numbers are getting smaller, you're going to have a fraction as your common ratio. And these can be a little tricky. You just have to pay close attention. Most likely you're going to get the one like the top, but every once in a while I've seen one that has a fraction. It involves a little bit more work. So I have 4 things I want you to find down here. The first is term. And the term is each number in a sequence. Oh, did not mean to throw my pens at you. So a term is each number in a sequence. Each number in a sequence. And that means literally that if I had the sequence 2, 4, 6, 8. Each of those things, each one of these is a term. You can go ahead and mark out variable. This is for my 7th graders, but we're not going to worry about the variable part right now. The common difference is, remember, is the number being added. Common difference means added. And the common ratio is your number being multiplied. So I need you to just read very carefully, guys. I know, like number 1, it's got a pattern. So think about what's being done. We went from 4, 9, 16, so forth. This is a whole different type of a sequence. Think about what type of numbers these are. We've talked about this in our SOL 6.5 review, what kind of numbers these were. So pay close attention as you continue to do this front and the back of this sheet.